everyone, welcome back to Unit 3. I know a few of you are interested in political parties and what they stand for. So today's video will be about the history of political parties in the United States and go into a brief description of their ideological basis. Please have your summary sheets out and don't forget to submit your homework after. If the link is not on Headline, it's certainly posted in the description underneath the video. First off, political parties are groups of citizens who agree on major issues facing the nation. They seek to create public policies that reflect these views, and these policies in their eyes would help solve problems, create opportunities, and generally allow the country to run smoothly. These citizens will choose or nominate people to run for offices at the national, state, and local levels to implement these policies that they create. These candidates then campaign to be elected. In order to be elected, you have to convince the undecided or independent voters and those who may not agree with your ideas that you are the best choice. It's not necessarily important to convince your own party members that you are the right person, especially since they're the ones who chose for you to run. So political parties start almost around the same time as the country starts. It's around the turn of the 19th century, right around when George Washington leaves office. In his farewell address, he warns the nation to be weary of political factions. But political factions had started really when the Constitution was being ratified. So the first true political parties revolved around Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, and it was over the issues of the Constitution and how much power the national government should have. Thomas Jefferson was associated with the Democratic Republicans. Don't mix this up with the Democrats and Republicans of today. They were fearful of a powerful central government and wanted to ensure the states had their rights protected. Whereas Alexander Hamilton was associated with the Federalists, and they were concerned with a strong national government with a powerful chief executive who could ensure that the country would run effectively. Now, I'm hoping that this sounds familiar because this is really the same argument that the Federalists and Anti-Federalists had. Over time, parties became open to really any citizen, but mainly people over the age of 18 in today's world are part of the parties because they're the ones who are voting and are most interested in what's going on. Currently, the U.S. is running on a two-party system with various third parties who really rarely garner any type of major influence in votes in the national elections. The current political parties, meaning the Democrats and the Republicans, were created in the 19th century, with the Republicans emerging around 1860 with Abraham Lincoln and the 1830s with Andrew Jackson for the Democrats. So in the 1828 election, farmers and small business owners started calling themselves the Democratic Party, and they nominated Andrew Jackson, who was supposed to stand for the common citizen, but in reality he was looking out for Southern and Western interests. The Whigs and National Republican Party were in direct opposition to him and would eventually form into the Republican Party. In 1854, various Whigs, Free Soil, and ex-Democrats would form the Republican Party, which opposed the expansion of slavery in U.S.-held territories. This would then leave just the Republicans and Democrats as the last two, if you want to call it men standing, for parties at this point in time, because the Whigs and the Free Soils had been absorbed into the Republican Party. With the emergence of these two political parties, it sets America up for the election of 1860 of Abraham Lincoln, secession, and the Civil War. Now, third parties are political parties that exist outside of the major two. This would include the Green Party, Libertarian Party, and the Tea Party, although we often think that the Tea Party is really just a subset of the Republican Party. Typically, third-party candidates will be registered as independents, but sometimes will caucus with either the Republican or Democrat Party if they are on the national level in Congress so they can have a louder voice. No third-party candidate has ever won the White House, but they have won various congressional seats and even governorships. Governor Jesse Ventura, who is an ex-pro wrestler, had won the governorship, or a governorship, I should say, and currently there are two independent serving in the U.S. Senate. One of those independents is Connecticut's Senator Joseph Lieberman, who will be retiring at the end of this term. He's not really a true independent because he was a Democrat who then switched to the Independent Party after he lost his primary election in 2006. So at the end of this term, he's retiring, and that's what our whole Senate race is about right now, who's going to replace him. Currently, though, Bernie Sanders of Vermont is the true independent in the Senate. He's actually from the Democrat Socialist Party, and he does caucus with the Democrats. Third-party candidates have, however, changed the outcome of national elections. In 1992, Ross Perot ran for president, and some say he actually split the Republican vote. Some Republicans voted for him, while other Republicans voted for George H.W. Bush, and that allowed Bill Clinton to win the presidency for the Democrats. However, in 2000, 8 years later, when Al Gore was running for the Democrats and George W. Bush was running for the Republicans, there was a third-party candidate under the Green Party, Ralph Nader, who ran and ended up splitting the vote for the Democrats, so George W. Bush was able to win for the Republicans. Most argue, however, that the role of the third-party candidate is to bring to light issues that the two major parties may not have thought of or weren't going to include into their own platforms. So ideological third parties, like I said, play the role of getting policies into the minds of major party candidates and elected officials. Now, all of their ideas are going to be put into action. For example, the Socialist and Communist parties would like to see all major industries nationalized, but this isn't a policy that's gained a lot of traction. Using the economy to describe political parties today will make a lot of sense, since this is the biggest issue around, especially during the election season right now. Democrats believe that there is a responsibility to help the poor through government intervention. Typically, Democrats are seen as liberals and are on the left side of the political spectrum. Republicans, on the other hand, believe that by leaving the economy alone, it's going to allow for growth and give people a greater ability to help themselves. Therefore, they believe in less regulation when it comes to economic policies, and are seen as conservatives, and are typically on the right side of the political spectrum. Since the two parties are vying for the same people, those who are undecided, they need to move more towards the middle with their political viewpoints or their platforms. Amazingly, American citizens tend to see not necessarily eye to eye, but similarly on a lot of issues. That doesn't seem to be the case, especially now since we're in an election season, but outside of an election season, people do see eye to eye. This unity, therefore, forces politicians to work more together. Although, again, you're going to say, well, not really in the recent past. So if we look at Congress, they are definitely not a bipartisan Congress. Alright, so some extra stuff if you're interested in it. A few days ago I was watching a show on H2 called How the States Got Their Shape. One of the episodes was on red states and blue states. Red states being states that typically vote Republican, and blue states being states that typically vote Democratic. It's a great episode to watch if you're interested in that kind of stuff. It is on demand if you have that option through your cable company. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube or Hulu as well. Two other shows that typically have political commentary in their monologues, they are comedians, or they typically also have politicians on and other people in the political spectrum and political sphere of the world, are The Daily Show with Jon Stewart and The Colbert Report with Stephen Colbert. They are hilarious, and by hilarious I mean your type of hilarious, not necessarily my type of hilarious. I'm not endorsing either one, and I'm not saying you need to watch these. Sometimes they have some topics on there that may not relate to what we're talking about and are totally off base. So not all of it is necessarily relevant. So make sure you hand in your homework, you get that into me, and your summary sheets are filled out, and I will see you in class. Have a great day.